Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons and the rise of the D&D Canon Slipcase. Alright, so you have heard me talk many times about the Dungeons & Dragons Canon, the D&D Canon hardback. It's a big deal. It's been in Dungeons & Dragons. I think the first one was 1978. I don't think we got our first real D&D Canon hardback. You know it. It's like the 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. It's hardback on front and back, and it's been in literally every single edition of Dungeons and Dragons, right? And I have hardbacks from every single edition, the D&D Canon hardback, and especially in 5th edition, this was called out by Jeremy Crawford. And they were like, if it's in, and they were like, the canon hardback, that is, the key to Dungeons & Dragons canon. Now, in my opinion, the canon right now is the red ampersand. That if a red ampersand goes on it, it's canon, right? And if the red ampersand isn't on it, I don't know if you're talking to any canon there, right? So, and one of the reasons why I say that is, well, what do you do with the box sets, right? They're clearly canon as well. But the reason why we're talking today is I just received my D&D, my Dungeons and Dragons. I specifically received my Dungeons and Dragons Planescape book, which is extremely exciting. I'm very excited about that, right? So I get it. It's got the slipcase. It's got Sigil in the Outlands. It has Mort's Planar Parade, and it has a Turning of Time, right? The adventure, right? And it has the setting-specific Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master screen, right? With setting-specific screen, right? And it has a map, right? So that's actually, I would say, 5 components, right? And it's a big deal because this is the second time we've had a D&D Canon slipcase. I hear you. You're like, wait a second, Scott. We've had D&D Canon slipcases for a while now, right? So let's talk about those. So first of all, the D&D, there have been D&D slipcases, which is a collection of the core rulebooks. So the PHB, the MM, and the DMG. Does that count? No, it does not, right? And the reason why is, one, you can get that product outside of a slipcase. You can just buy the PHB, the MM, and the DMG. So you can buy all of those products separately. You can buy all 3 of them one at a time, or you can buy them all at the same shop and never get the slipcase, right? So then there was that nonsense Tasha's junk, right? Like there was like, Mordenkainen's, there was like Mordenkainen presents Monsters of the Multiverse, and we're going to shove in Tasha's, and we're going to shove in Xanathar. Same thing, right? These are just a slipcase being added to a product. This isn't special. This isn't unique, right? This doesn't take a special place on the bookshelf, right? But that is no longer the case. There are now 2 D&D Canon slipcases. Let's talk about them. Spelljammer and Planescape. And Planescape is an improvement on Spelljammer in that the books are longer. So this is a big, thick D&D Canon slipcase, right? Now, why is it important to talk about this? Well, the reality is, the reason why is the D&D Canon hardback literally defines the entire industry. Literally, the OSR and the indie, on the vast majority of their products, build their product to sit on the shelf directly next to the king of the industry, which is the D&D Canon hardback, right? They, like, Pathfinder, their books are exactly the same size. Oh, actually, it is interesting. Pathfinder has tried a few other book sizes, but their core book is put out in exactly the same size as Dungeons and Dragons, right? And what's interesting is Pathfinder, like, and it really, that's the entire point, is it is astounding how powerfully Dungeons and Dragons shapes the entire industry, right? It defines the industry, and it sets the mark, and everyone follows and complains, right? Like, literally these companies who never outperform Dungeons and Dragons, never innovate better than Dungeons and Dragons, like, end up complaining about it constantly and saying, oh, it's not better, it just outsells us, and all its products look better, and its distribution model is far better, and, you know, and our distribution models are embarrassing. Kickstarter at best, right? GarageBand Energy. It's astounding, right? So the reality is, the reason why the D&D Canon slipcase is so important is that you get, with the slipcase, it is raising the bar for the entire industry. This really is a new type of product, right? And what Dungeons & Dragons is saying is, you can't just put out a setting book. You've got to do this slipcase thing. And the reason why is, we're saying that the core rule books really are echoed for every single setting, right? And, you know, and honestly, and it is pretty astounding, because these things are, they really don't, D&D, like, if I hold up Spelljammer, and I hold up Planescape, and then I hold up Dragonlance, you're going to be like, what's that stupid thing in the middle? Like, the Dragonlance book just looks pathetic compared to these, and it is pathetic. It doesn't have the utility, it doesn't have the power, it doesn't have the girth. Like, this is just a much better product. And the important part is, we now have D&D Canon hardbacks, and we have D&D Canon slipcases, and that new slipcase, now that there are two, Spelljammer and Planescape, and Dungeons & Dragons at scale, has proven that this can be done for the entire industry. It says it should be done. And your jank little Kickstarter nonsense doesn't count anymore. And you have a new bar, a new standard for quality, right? And so that's why the Dungeons & Dragons, the D&D Canon slipcase is so important. It is an iteration, a raising of quality, right? And it says, if you're going to do a setting book, you have to, you know, if you're going to do a setting book, this is the only way it's done, right? Which is truly astounding. I really think that is pretty amazing, and a very interesting aspect for, you know, what we're looking at in the, you know, in Dungeons & Dragons. The D&D Canon slipcase, a new establishment of quality that occurred in October of 2023. And the reality is, I think you could be looking at this in the future, where essentially, you know, your core rule book, right? Your core rule books are sold the way they used to be, right? And then you have source books for things that are maybe class specific or species specific, but setting books demand a slipcase, right? And I truly believe Dungeons & Dragons is setting a new level of quality for the entire OSR activity sphere, and for the entire indie TTRPG activity sphere. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.